YouTube? This is Ty, Metalhead Weatherman. I hope you guys are having a good start to your Sunday. Well, originally when I started doing this video, I was gonna do only an update on Fiona, but as we know in the weather world, things can change very quickly. So, as a result, excuse me. So as a result, yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and show you. Yeah, I mean, it's right there, plain as day. We have an enhanced risk issue. I was not expecting that at all. But clearly, there's been an uptick in some of the parameters that we've had, except for the last couple of days. This has been a slight risk since Sunday was considered as day 3. So the potential was always there. And we are going to go ahead and look at the parameters. We have a 5% risk of tornadoes now. I mean, I did see a little area where we were getting those 40 knot plus low level jet parameters, but I wasn't too sold on it. But clearly, there's been a few other things. I mean, the Cape value around this region has been pretty high. We were sitting at about 2,000, and some cases even 3,000 joules, more than sufficient enough for small severe weather outbreak, I would say. The main threats are definitely going to be wind and hail, and hail's the biggest threat actually. Wow. I mean, we've been talking about good lapse rates, very sufficient lapse rates around here, so this isn't super surprising. But I guess they just went ahead and pulled the trigger, all like a full send, so to speak. So taking a oh wow, taking a brief look at the synopsis here, and wow, we even have some areas that may reach 100 degrees today. So this is definitely going to aid with really strong lapse rates. And we have a Cape value in excess of 4,000 joules per kilogram. Wow. Maybe even a chance for a bow echo here as well, according to that synopsis. So we'll go ahead and take a look at these parameters that they're talking about here. We're going to look at the mixed layer Cape. We're going to look at the lapse rates, and we're going to look at a feature that I don't normally look at, and that's the most unstable Cape. So it'll be interesting to see how this all unfolds on this HRRR model here. So we'll go ahead and take a quick look here. And I mean, there's no surprise. I've been saying it for the last couple of days that this environment is ripe, and rightfully so. Look at this. We'll even go ahead and take a sounding of this. I haven't done that in a while. Oh, look at that. This sounding has a probable hazard type as tornado. That's interesting. And it's not necessarily weak. It's not necessarily a weak tornado. You could potentially get up to EF3 if one could form. So I mean, there is a very interesting, very decent environment as far as tornadic activity is concerned. We look at the Cape right here. This purple number here is incredible. It's 4,000 joules per kilogram. We have moderately impressive lapse rates in the mid levels of the atmosphere as well. Do have some low level directional shear as well. Hordeograph has got a curve in it. This pretty much ticks all the bars that you would look for with a with an impressive low pressure system. So we'll move this along through the rest of the evening here and into the early morning hours. I mean, eventually the Cape does die down, but some pretty high values we got there. And that's the mixed layer Cape. I wonder what the most unstable Cape looks like. That's impressive. This could turn into a long video because of that too, so bear with me here. Or either bear with me or buckle your seatbelt. First half of this video, we're definitely going to be talking about the severe weather threat. Second half, we'll be talking about Fiona. So if you want to skip ahead to the second half of this video, I completely understand. It does not hurt my feelings at all. So do what you got to do. I know you don't want to watch a 15-20 minute video all the time anyway. So we get into about 21Z, which is about, I would say, about 5-6 o'clock. Right around here is where they were talking about a cluster of storms being possible. And out here ahead of it, we have lapse rates that are sitting at about, I would say, oops, I I didn't mean to click that actually this time. But we have lapse rates of 7.5 and 8, and usually the higher the values, the stronger the lapse rate, and usually the higher the lapse rate, the greater the threat for hail is, and particularly larger hail. Hence why they upgraded it to an enhanced risk and have the hatch risk area in that 30% region, because that usually is indicative of hail greater than 2 inches in diameter. Now, before I go forward in this, I want to make it very clear, if you're in this region here, this does not mean that you're going to have hailstones that are the size of your fist. Hailstone, this is only going to be applicable for the areas that are under a severe weather threat. This area is not. So if you happen to see this video and you hear me saying this, I want you to understand you are not getting hail here. If you do, I will be very surprised, and more than likely it's not going to be very big. That being said, we've looked at the lapse rates. Let's go ahead and take a look at our most unstable cape. I rarely look at this map. Normally there isn't cause for me to do so. And this will be kind of interesting. I've only ever looked at this map maybe once or twice, and never on the channel actually, if I think about it. So we'll go ahead and move this along to about 17Z. Actually we'll go past it. We'll go to about maybe 21, 22Z, and we have some really high cape values. I see some purple in there actually, which is indicative of maybe some 4,000s even. This is towards the area where we were talking about a tornado threat, so go ahead and take a quick look at that sounding. Yep, and there it is right there. Right around that time, we're sitting at an air temperature of about 90 degrees and a dew point of 71. Pretty good lapse rates too, even at the lowest of levels. The directional shear isn't impressive, but there's probably sufficient speed shear. So this is going to make for a very interesting scenario here. We have cape that's nearing 4,000 here as well. Slightly sharper curve on the hordeograph, which is really interesting, but also has that linear look, so you could get a little bit of both here. You could get a tornado out of this, but you could also get damaging winds out of that complex of storms. Let's go ahead and take a look at the wind shear here. We'll go at from 1 kilometer above the ground. So we'll just wait for this to load. These wind shear maps always take a long time to load, so hopefully it looks like this one's going to behave. I think it's more or less when I have the Euro or GFS up, especially the GFS. That one's really bad. Okay, that's interesting. Kind of picks back up once we get into the overnight hour. That's at the this is at the lowest of levels. That shows how inexperienced I am with the bulk shear maps. I usually just go way up here towards the low level jet, just kind of go from there. So maybe I should try the 06 here, 0 to 6 kilometer here. It might be a little bit more suitable. Have this move forward. Much different picture here. And this is a very big area of wind shear right around our area of interest. Go ahead and click that again. Oh, wow. And even as we're getting towards like 7 o'clock, 7:30, towards 8 o'clock, you can clearly see a lot of crazy directional shear towards the lowest of levels. So this is definitely going to be an area of interest as far as tornadoes are concerned. So the significant tornado parameter even kind of indicates that we could have something a little bit stronger, maybe even towards the 4. We're kind of sitting at a 3, but cape is a little bit low around here, but it's potentially more ideal to have a slightly lower cape, because usually there'll be less storms around it, so there'll be less competition for harnessing that energy that's in the atmosphere. Excuse me. We'll go ahead and take a quick look at the STP here before we move on to the actual radar, so to speak. Did this load? Okay, yeah, it did. Just nothing was there, that was all. So we get into OOZ, which is probably about 8 o'clock, about 7, 8 o'clock Central Time. And we can see some reds in here, so we are getting towards that 3 range. Maybe even a few 4s might be possible. But not the highest of numbers, but it's pretty high for this time of year. I do tend to call this time of year a secondary severe season. Usually, sometimes this will be a little bit further south, but that's more towards October and November. So I guess you can kind of call this out of season. But clearly, though, this is a formidable severe weather threat here, and this definitely warrants some attention. It warrants respect as well. I would say that if you happen to be under this area, be ready for all hazards and take it seriously if a warning is issued, because you never know. You don't want that. You don't want to be that one unlucky person that wasn't prepared, and then everything just goes to you know what around you. That being said, let's go ahead and take a look at the radar reflectivity, and then we will go ahead and briefly touch up on Fiona, because there have been a few new developments with that. So we'll just run this in a loop. Mainly going to be looking at the severe weather threat. Okay. So for the most part, there's not going to be a large area of coverage in regards to storms. Towards the late evening, towards eastern Iowa is where the greatest threat will be, but there is some potential for some scattered storms off towards south central Iowa and south Iowa. And this is going to likely turn into a line of storms and start to bow out as we cross that Iowa-Illinois border here. So that's where I think the damaging wind threat will really start to increase is overnight. Tornado threat will be earlier in the evening. So now that we've looked at that, we'll shut this out and we'll go ahead and take a look at Fiona here, which is now, as of this 8 o'clock advisory Eastern time, it's about 39 minutes ago, has been upgraded to winds that are sitting at about 70 miles an hour and a pressure of 991 millibars. And if you look at it on satellite, you can definitely see that she's getting her act together. Eye is starting to form right here. A little bit lopsided still. The right front quadrant definitely looks a bit bigger, but it definitely looks like it's in a phase of strengthening. I do think that this also will most likely make landfall towards the far western half of Puerto Rico. May slip into this little strait here between there and Hispaniola, which would be good news for the U.S. It's honestly good news that it's strengthening, although it's bad news for Puerto Rico. And we've discussed this quite a few times in the last few videos, that if Fiona strengthens, she's going to get caught up in these in the steering current in the higher levels, and as a result, she'll be pushed out to sea more than likely here. She may even spare the Bahamas here, but I don't think it's going to make for I don't think it's going to get super close to the U.S. It may increase the surf and the rip currents, but that's about it. But as far as immediate impacts, we're going to have to look at mainly Puerto Rico and Dominican Republic. You guys, heads up, this is definitely going to bring some life-threatening flooding and some high winds. Let's go ahead and take a look at the actual path here, and it kind of coincides. In fact, I think that Fiona is probably starting to make that turn right now. Now keep in mind, this is just the eye that's in this forecast cone. This is not the entire storm. So as a result of that, we have plenty of tropical storm and even hurricane warnings that are now in effect. All of Puerto Rico has hurricane warnings in effect right now, and then towards the eastern half of Dominican Republic, you guys also have hurricane warnings. We also have some tropical storm watches issued for parts of the Bahamas here, and some tropical storm watches towards the far western half of Dominican Republic. Those tropical storm winds are going to extend pretty far out from the center, especially since this storm has gotten a bit bigger. Excuse me. We'll go ahead and take a quick look at the spaghetti models and take a look at the track intensity. So there's actually been a lot of changes here. So we'll first take a look at the intensity guidance here. Kind of leaning towards a, Category 2 hurricane as it gets pushed out further into sea. A couple of these models are having it pushed a little bit close to Category 3. As of right now, the max predicted speed is about 105, 110 miles an hour. So we're already flirting with it. This could become our first, I think this would actually become our first major hurricane of the year. We also have to keep an eye out for Bermuda because I do think this will make a very close pass to it as well. Let's go ahead and take a look at the model tracks here. Go ahead and take a look and see if somewhere we can find Bermuda in there. A little hard to tell, but somewhere around here is Bermuda, and there's a lot of models kind of favoring that track. So anyone out there in Bermuda, heads up, this could be coming your way. So eyes open. I'm thinking probably within the next 5 days. Right now it's moving. This storm is moving slow. It's moving at about 8 miles an hour from what I last saw in here. In fact, I honestly think by the next advisory, this could also become a hurricane. But anyway, we'll go ahead and go over to the model, the GFS, and kind of give you a real good picture of what she's doing and what she may very well end up doing. So here we are right now. Just go ahead and go through this whole GFS here. So this is about 84 hours out. It's what, about, trying to think. Can't do math right now. Here we go. Let's just go to 96. I know for a fact that that's 4 days from now. GFS has it of doing what the GFS is doing GFS things. Has this going down to like a 946 millibar storm. This would be a Category 3, Category 4-esque storm. And then as it gets closer, after it makes its pass, and it looks like if it doesn't make landfall, it's going to skirt Bermuda as a 948 millibar storm. Significant hurricane for sure. And then it gets kicked out to sea, and we will never see her again. So that being said, just take a look and see if there's anything else that may lie ahead. But looks of it, there's nothing really catching my attention here, or at least not until about 300 hours out, as we look at a potential front coming through. Maybe a piece of energy pops up and forms just after it passes Bermuda. It'll be interesting to see if it does anything. But that looks like a really strong storm system. And as a result, we may even have to watch it for not only signs of tropical development, but if it gets out far enough, we may have to watch Europe and the UK potentially cop that. Of course, with it being as far out as it is, got to take that with a pinch of salt. We'll move this back, and then we'll go ahead and look quickly at the euro, and then that should be it for us here. Okay. So the 06 euro hasn't come in yet, so this is a little bit outdated. Storm, of course, has strengthened a bit since then. We're sitting at 991 millibars, not 994. So we'll just have to play along with it. So the euro actually paints a different picture. The euro has it hanging to the south a little bit further, but even then, the pass is still the same. The path is relatively the same. It has it going a little bit further to the west and maybe missing Bermuda, which would be great news. I remember looking at the video yesterday, and that will be linked in the top right corner. I remember yesterday I looked at the models, and it gets caught by by the remnants of Fiona, and it ends up kicking a ridge out, or not a ridge. It ends up kicking putting up a trough, and it gets caught up in it and throws it into Nova Scotia. I actually want to take a look at that real quick before I go any further. Okay. So let's go to the lower 48. We'll jump back just a little bit. We'll went back too quick. And it looks like that solution is still in play here. Although it just looks like the euro just kicks it into Nova Scotia and towards the eastern parts of Canada here. More or less skirts it. It doesn't make a direct impact like we saw in yesterday's video. But still plenty to watch with this. I'm not too sold on it making a U.S. landfall. Good news for us, but keep the people in Haiti and, well, not Haiti, but, well, maybe Haiti too, but Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico in your prayers, and your thoughts and prayers. But this is it for the video here. If you like what I did here, leave me a like, drop a comment, sub to the channel. Greatly appreciate it. Made it to 50 subs before the end of the year, and I'm grateful for that, but there's a small part of me that kind of wants more. So, yeah, does 100 seem unreasonable? I mean, the weather pattern is going to be more active, and I'm going to be more active as a result of it, so there'll be plenty more videos to be made. If you want to share this channel, then feel free to do so. Either way, I appreciate you guys being here, and I will see you guys in the next video. I also have a second channel where I do music. I drop something on there. You'll see this at the end of the video screen if you've made it this far. But until the next video, this has been Tyler Metalhead Weatherman. I will see you soon.